In the video What is Art?, we learned how dictionaries define art and what we need to think about in defining art. One of them was skills. Many people have criticized modern and contemporary art because it looks like children's scribble. What do you think? What do you think artists' skills are? Let's look at some works of art and think about artists' skills. Who are the trained artists? They are literally trained to become artists by experts. In the past, artists like painters, sculptors, and craftsmen served as apprentices and obtained the skills and knowledge. Today, art schools and art departments at colleges and universities educate future artists. Through learning various aspects of art-making methods, the trained artists gain more professional skills and are aware of the relationship between art history and their works. Let's look at the work of a trained artist. This is a large sculpted canopy, technically called baldachin, over the higher altar of St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City. It was intended to mark the place of St. Peter's tomb underneath. It was made of bronze in the 17th century by Italian artist Gian Lorenzo Bernini. Bernini was trained by his father, who was a sculptor. He studied ancient Greek and Roman sculptures and Renaissance paintings as well. This baldachin shows Bernini's acquired knowledge and admiration of classical and Renaissance tradition in art, also his creative development of new style Baroque. Let's look at another type of artist, folk artists. They are part of traditions of specific cultures or regions. Their works are usually utilitarian and decorative. Folk artists have little art training and they show their cultural identities and traditions rather than their individual expressions. Here, we are looking at a quilt, peony, made by Mary Wallace in the late 19th century. This one. The decorations in this quilt are made by stitching the cut fabric pieces. Folk art shows it's a cultural or regional tradition, right? This work shows the influence of Pennsylvania German pottery here. This is the example of pottery. So we don't see exactly the same pattern, but we see some inspiration, right? Like more like abstracted flower petals and stuff. Let's talk about untrained artists. They don't have the conventional art training or education, so they are literally outside of the established art education. Therefore, they're not aware of art history and traditions or contemporary art trends. Also, their art-making skills and techniques may not be the same as the trained artists have, and their works are usually personal expression. Let's look at the example here. It's probably the most well-known work of an outsider artist. It's called the Nuestro Pueblo, also called the Watchtowers. It was made by an Italian immigrant, Sabatino Simon Rodia. It is a collection of 17 sculptural towers, architectural structures, and sculptural features and mosaics in Los Angeles. Rodia worked on these towers for 33 years. These towers are made of various materials like broken pipes, bed frames, broken dishes, seashells, and other colorful junks that Rodia gathered from the vacant lots in his neighborhood. Rodia did not use any special equipment and determined design and working alone with his hand tools. He said, "I had it in mind to do something big, and I did it." This work shows his creativity and purposefulness. With this example, we can think about how we perceive artists and their skills. What about children's art? At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that many people have criticized modern and contemporary art because it looks like children's artwork. Have you ever experienced a child explaining their drawings to you? My 6-year-old nephew explained his drawing, and it was hard to follow. But I could tell that he had a lot of stories about that drawing. Children's artworks are like mark makings, inventing shapes and symbolizing things that they've seen or imagined. Children usually depict the world in symbolic ways, then realistic, until they're about 6 years old. Let's look at these two drawings. Both showed the images of people. We can see their eyes, lips, and different hairstyles, but no noses. Through these simple features, the children portrayed people that they've met or imagined. Children's artworks are more like mental constructions than records of visual observations. They create images by reconstructing what they've seen or imagined in unique marks and shapes. Unfortunately, many children lose this intuitive ability when they begin to look at the world from a learned point of view. They start drawing over pre-drawn printed images or coloring such images. About age of 9 or 10, many children start doubting their creativity. So, an early stage of children's art is their intuitive expression of what they have constructed in their mind, not by acquired knowledge. The modernist artists saw children's art as pure creativity because of this reason. Therefore, they try to express their creativity as childhood. In this video, we briefly looked at different types of artists and learned their skills and knowledge. Whether trained or not, artists tend to think for themselves when creating art. There's no solid boundary of what artists' skills are. Skills and techniques are just other tools artists use to create art.